Hello there, everyone. Well, it's Mark here, and I am delighted to be joined by a very special person here. This is Phil Wilthew. Hi, Phil. Good to see you.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Well, Phil, for those people who don't know who you are, and I'm sure there's not many, obviously, who are watching this, why don't you just explain who you are and a little bit about yourself? It'd be really great to hear about who you are.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, well, it's hard to summarize who I am in a light bite, but I live in Bedford, and I'm married to Carol. We've been married 25 years this last year, so big milestone for us. And we have two grown-up children, Lauren and Sam, who both live in Bedford as well. And we moved here 2010 to be part of the King's Arms Church, which sounds like a pub, but is actually a church. And so I am part of the leadership team at King's Arms, as well as half of my time working in our wider family of churches of Catalyst and kind of beyond that as well. So my world is kind of split between sort of local and beyond. And so that's a little bit of who I am. And
Great.
I'm a Brighton fan, and I've got my mug ready for this interview. I am.
Okay, so for all those people who are still watching, that's great.
Yes.
Um, if you well, you mentioned Catalyst there. Obviously, we joined Catalyst as a church September last year. That's when it happened, and we're delighted to be part of the family, and we're delighted specifically to be part of your hub. And I know as Christians, we're really good at mentioning things like making names up like Catalyst
Yes.
and the hub, and I think it's all just frustrated youth workers as far as I can work out. But yeah, explain to us what exactly is Catalyst and specifically your hub, really.
Yeah, no, you're dead right. We can get lost in our names, can't we? But essentially, Catalyst is a movement of churches around the world that are working together to raise up the kind of disciples that change the world. So that would be the kind of the big idea, I guess, is that in the New Testament we read of autonomous local churches that partner together with other churches to see the kingdom come. And so I think Catalyst really is a movement of churches that believe they can do more together than they can apart, who would kind of share values, share hearts, and also connected by relationship. And so Catalyst is a big movement worldwide. I think we're working in over 50 different nations
Wow.
around the world. So it's a global movement. But to keep the relationship side really central, we kind of break down what we're doing into smaller hubs of churches. So smaller groups of churches that are working together because they're in friendship and partnership at a more perhaps local level or heart level. And so we are absolutely delighted that Hope Church is part of Catalyst, and also that you guys are part of the hub that I lead with the team. And yeah, that's a little bit about what Catalyst is and who we are.
That's cool. I think I knew what it was before we joined, so I'm glad that
That's
I've kind
good.
of got, generally that's what I thought it was. That's good. I mean, part of it, I guess, is to express the apostolic gifting and prophetic gifting and Ephesians 4 gifts as well. In terms of the apostolic and the prophetic, how does that kind of express and work itself out within Catalyst and your hub?
That is a great question. Yeah, again, what we believe scripturally is that God gives people gifts to the church. So Ephesians 4:11, God gave apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, and evangelists to equip God's people for works of service. And so the idea there is that God's gifts come in people form, and we call them apostles or prophets or evangelists, and their job is to not do all the work, but actually to equip the body of Christ to do what the church is called to do, which is to be light in the darkness and to be salt in their communities. So yeah, I think in Catalyst the way it works is probably very diverse, but we would very much believe in apostolic teams working together. So this idea that people of different gifts coming together under an apostolic kind of mandate or blueprint and working together to see that accomplished. So again, I think you see that in the New Testament where Paul would gather teams of very gifted people, whether it was a Silas or a Timothy or a Barnabas or whoever, and they would form teams together to see the mission of God accomplished. And so in Catalyst, we very much believe in working in team. So Catalyst is led by a team. It's not led by one person. It's led by multiple people who bring their gifts to the party. And then I guess it works in trying to create space and opportunities for those gifts to play to their strengths. So for example, in the prophetic, I do quite a lot of work in trying to help develop the prophetic in the movement. And so that would look like training opportunities, going on teams with prophetic people, having opportunities to kind of raise the bar in terms of what we're going after in the prophetic across our churches. So it looks like multiple things, but ultimately it's teams of gifted people who are working together towards kind of one mission. And our mission as Catalyst is to raise the kind of disciples that change the world. So that's what we're trying to do together.
Sounds good. I mean, it sounds easy, doesn't it, when you say it out loud? You know?
Yes, that's right.
Why haven't we done it yet? Yeah. In terms of your team, I mean, I know a few of them, and Wendy's obviously a dear friend of the church. Wendy Mann has been over here a few times. And who else have you got on your astounding team that serves the hub?
Yeah, well, our hub is obviously a subsection of Catalyst. So we're working with over sort of 50 churches.
Wow.
In probably around 15 different nations. I think many of those would be in the UK, but then obviously some further afield. And my hub team at the moment is made up of Wendy, who you've mentioned, Simon Holley, who leads the Catalyst team actually, but he's also part of our hub team. Rob Davey, who is a prophetic leader based in Solihull in Birmingham. Duncan Hanton, who leads a church in London, North London, kind of Barnet area. And more latterly, Pin Shabong, who's a leader in Aylesbury and does a lot of work in kind of India and Myanmar. And so that's our team.
Wow.
And Charlene. I can't forget Charlene, because Charlene is not only a phenomenal prophet, but she also pulls our team together and basically makes me look much better than I am, because she's organized and on it. And so she's our kind of ops manager as well as being an incredible prophet. So yeah, she's last but definitely not least.
Oh, you did well not to forget Charlene. You'd have been in so much trouble.
Yeah, I did well.
I'd have sent this video straight to her. You know that.
Oh no, please don't.
In terms of just where Catalyst in terms of geographically, as well as kind of heart-wise, you know, your hub. I guess if we talk Catalyst, we'll be here all day. But in terms of your hub specifically, kind of geographically and heart-wise, what are some of the key areas you guys work in?
Yeah, I mean, geographically, our hub in the UK, if we focus on that first of all, what we decided a few years ago in Catalyst is that we believe apostolic ministry needs to happen through relational connection, not geography. And so what we wanted to avoid is creating a kind of regional manager model where just because you're in a region means that you're automatically lumped together, whether there's chemistry in relationship or not. So we decided we didn't want to do that, but we wanted a kind of a way of working together that allowed the connection to happen where there was relationship and where there was chemistry in terms of values and mission. And so consequently, our hub is quite diverse geographically. So we are in the UK working with some churches up as far as Scotland. So we'd go as far north as Scotland, up into sort of Dundee and Perth. And then you guys would be the outliers in Norfolk on kind of this side of the country. And then we've got a kind of clump in the middle in terms of the kind of Midlands and into sort of North London, where we're working with a number of churches, down to kind of Ashford in Kent, and then all the way across to Cardiff in Wales. So yeah, so it's quite a broad kind of cross spectrum of the UK. And then internationally, we are kind of working with numbers of churches in Europe. So Germany, Spain, Switzerland, increasingly a lot in France. So our recent conference, I think we had over 40 leaders from France. join us, including some from the new church plant in Grenobles, working with churches in Russia, and then more further afield geographically would be India. So I was just chatting to a pastor today in our hub who's working with some new connections in the Punjab in India, Myanmar, and I think in 3 weeks' time, I'm off to New Zealand. So that really would be the furthest that our hub is working with geographically. So we're working with numbers of churches in New Zealand as well. So they really are the outliers. So yeah, a bit of a smorgasbord of kind of places, but a big concentration in Europe, and then increasingly in other parts of the world as well.
Wow, that is some context there. I mean, yeah, you can't get much further away than New Zealand, can you? I mean, that's
not before you start coming back home again. So.
No, I mean, it was a delight to kind of meet at the last conference that you did, the Resonate conference a few weeks ago. So many people from overseas. I think we were sat right in the middle of the guys from France, and it was just so much fun. There's a lot of enthusiasm I noticed from a lot of leaders to go to the south of France to go and visit.
I can't understand why. I don't know why there's such a big push to do our next conference in the south of France. There must be a reason.
Sounds like a good idea. In terms of us as a church, I mean, we've started to feel very much more connected to you. We want to be like we are family, and we want the whole church to feel like they're part of the family, not just me or one or two other leaders. How can we get more involved, do you think, as a church, kind of moving forward, or different things to get involved with things you guys are doing?
Yeah, great question. I think build relationships. So I think often the times that we're gathering together as leaders, it's not so much about the content in those sessions, but it's also about the context for leaders to build relationships with one another, so that there can be a flow of gifting across our churches. And so my hope would be as yourself and other guys in your team build relationships with other leaders in Catalyst, that there'll be a flow back into Hope Church in terms of giftings coming in and bringing what they carry in a way that does your church good, but also vice versa, you being a community that's ready to give in other contexts that God connects you to. So I think it's looking for opportunities for relationship building. I think it's also making the most of the opportunities we have to do things together. And so obviously COVID has been an interesting season in terms of things that it's stopped for a season. So one of those, for example, would be our Catalyst Festival. So before COVID, we were in a sort of biannual pattern where every other year we'd get as many people from Catalyst churches together to camp in a field in Stoneleigh. Some of you will remember Stoneleigh. And we would spend a long weekend together over a bank holiday, usually in May, and gather to worship and hear great teaching and be together. And so the festival will come back online, not this year, but possibly next or the year after. So I think opportunities like that, where we get to come together with our wider family, just making a beeline for those and marking them out as a priority. And then I guess the third thing I would say is looking for opportunities to really pray and invest in what God is doing, particularly amongst unreached people groups and those in, I guess we would call the persecuted church. So I think we had the privilege and Catalyst of working with numbers of churches in those kind of areas. And so I would just say, stay in touch with the needs in terms of prayer for those places. So at the minute, for example, we are actively trying to give as much relief aid as we can to those that are victims of the earthquake in Syria and Turkey. So we're working with churches in both of those nations. And so I think how we play our part together as Catalyst churches is coming together to serve those most in need. And so that's through our prayer, it's through our giving, it's through our support. So look for those opportunities when news comes of these places, get behind in prayer, own it like they're your own brothers and sisters, because they are. So those would be a few ways. There's probably many more, but yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Oh, that's so helpful, Phil. It is truly a delight to have met you and to kind of connected with you. And I'm really excited about how hope can really be part of Catalyst and your hub specifically, and really serve and get alongside. And I know we're going to be blessed as we bless, and all of those kinds of Christian
Absolutely.
buzzwords, you know, but it's true. We're going to see the kingdom moving forward together. So really excited, and look forward to seeing you soon, my friend. And thank you so much for taking some time to do this.
Thanks, Mark. And just to say, the feeling is absolutely mutual. We love you guys a lot, and not just because you looked after my mum and dad very well, and they miss you,
Oh,
uh, but also I'm just so impressed by just the life that's amongst you, the honor in your team, the quality of community that you've built, and also just your passion to bring the kingdom in the power of the Spirit. I absolutely love that about you, and I never failed to spend time with you and people in your church without coming away with a greater passion for the things of God. And so it's absolutely mutual. The blessing definitely is flowing both ways. And so, yeah, we're super grateful for you as well.
awesome. Great stuff. All right, my friend. Well, I'll see you soon.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Mark.
Bye.